Welcome back
Welcome back
to
Lensflare. Ba-da-da-ba-ba-ba. Okay, that's horrible. We need an intro, guys, and it's going to happen sooner rather than later.
Shink. I have X23 sharpened pointies.
So we knew that today we were going to be talking about our recent, it wasn't a photo shoot. Those are kind of sharp.
They're supposed to be sharp.
Oh. So we knew we were going to be doing a talk about our recent Wolverine fight bar scene. And the theme of this video is, shooting in a real bar. And we were like, well, Kat doesn't have any crazy stuff to wear. But then we realized we have a whole costume vault. And sure enough, we have X23
Claws.
Yeah. That's X23 is the clone of Wolverine.
The chick version.
He's Weapon X, so he's 10, so she's 13 versions past him.
Not like 3 more versions past him?
23 versus 10?
Oh, I can't math. Sorry.
Well, I mean, for a moment
I was
there,
thinking 13.
for a moment there, I thought you were translating the Greek numerals, and I was like, wait, is it? Does that make sense? A lot of times it totally does make sense, and I'm crazy, but not in this case.
But you're always crazy.
I am always crazy. So, a few catch-up items. We're still working on an intro. We have new microphones, so we're seeing how that works. We have kind of a little bit different setup. We can actually see what we're showing you. So if you're looking at the video version, we are going to look a little bit better because we're actually looking up. I mean, I can look a little bit to the left of the camera, but it's close. We're not looking backwards at our recording machine.
Our monitor.
Yeah, that was crappy. So this is a lot better. We, in addition to an intro, of course, we'll probably have some sort of outro music thing or something. We're changing to when we release our Patreon videos. The way it's been working is we've been releasing these videos every Sunday. Mm-hmm. So sometimes Saturday, sometimes late Sunday, but around Sunday. We've been posting to Patreon to watch the bonus video on Fridays, which means that it's always almost a week behind. So as of this week, we're going to be changing that to make it a little bit faster. Technically, if you are a Patreon member and you're subscribed to the podcast, you've actually been getting it on time because we upload both versions at the same time. But this is just a little bit better for people at home. A few upcoming shoots. We have a Fallen Angel shoot coming up, which should be pretty amazing. We have a Wolf Sanctuary shoot. We're going to be shooting in a real wolf sanctuary with Leiden as Dorkside Fitness Wolverine, probably naked with wolves. Nothing can go wrong there, guys.
I'm so excited to go meet up with wolves, though.
Yeah, it should be pretty cool.
He's probably going to freeze his blueberries off again, but that's on him.
He'll get nice and cuddly with those wolves while he's naked.
Maybe the fur will keep him warm.
I'm not going near wolves naked, personally, but whatever. I mean, hey, it was in a comic book, so Leiden has to do it. I think that's his call. So other than that, let's get back to shooting in a real bar. So the bar we shot in was
Millennium Fandom.
So that is our favorite bar. We actually chose where we still live, where we live based off of the proximity to that bar. We actually somewhat chose the location of this studio based off of how close it was to that bar. You want to tell them a little bit about it if they don't know?
Millennium Fandom is one of our favorite geeky, nerdy bars, and basically a lot of cosplayers and a lot of people who enjoy the different fandoms love to go there. This is Leiden being Wolverine, drinking his watered-down Coca-Cola, which actually looks like a beer.
Yeah, so Millennium Fandom allowed us to shoot there And this is a real bar. I mean, they're open 4 days a week due to COVID. It is super cool. It's got all the liquor, all the everything. Wolverine doesn't drink very often. And I asked the bartender, who was gracious enough to come in on his day off and let us in. I asked the bartender to make something that looked like beer that he could chug. And this is just Coke plus water. This is pretty good job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Looked pretty realistic.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. I'm sure it didn't taste that great.
Mm-mm. But the effect, that's all that we wanted.
Yeah. Plus, he made like a big mess with it. So, which, if you later on watch the video, he like chugs it and it's like pouring down his chin and everything. I don't know if that's how you drink beer. Maybe that's why I don't like beer.
He just wanted to look more feral and angry and frustrated that he had to fight people.
Yeah.
I
mean, he wanted to fight people.
Well, yeah, he's,
Wolverine. He's going through some stuff.
He's such a feisty honey badger.
And we knew we wanted this shoot in a bar, and we struggled because not only did it have to be in a bar, but it had to be accessible when we could go. Like when because most of us have day jobs, so
Yep. Bank hours.
and so when are we most available? When do we do most of our shoots? Saturday. Most of our shoots have been done on Saturday historically.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not going to work because that's the busiest day for a bar. A bar is not going to be open on Saturday.
Nope. Unless you like do morning time.
So we were going to do this in the same place we did the Court of Owls shoot. But again, they're a real bar. And it was going to be a problem because they're most available. Well, they could have been available, but actually they license out the bar. So actually the bar wasn't available when we needed on one shoot. We actually had to cancel a shoot because somebody paid money and we weren't paying money.
That and
not enough money.
That and even if we picked a different spot in that building, we would hear the live music. So if we're recording something, it's not ideal to have other loud noises around us.
Yeah, it was just going to be a problem. Whereas Millennium Fandom, they closed down for cleaning and because of COVID, a couple days a week. And bartender was willing to watch the bar. The owner let us use the bar. Alex is super amazing. He's super supportive of art and movies and stuff like that. So we went in, and the next problem we had was, the lighting isn't great for filming in bars. I mean, obviously, if you've ever recorded with your smartphone or something, it's typically not great. So
yeah, it's pretty dark in a bar.
The lighting is, lots of weird lighting, like just neon signs and things. In this case, there's some chandeliers and stuff, and we didn't want to lose any of that. Like that's what makes it look like a bar.
And it gives it character. That's our bar.
Yeah, and that's true. It's our bar. It's the bar we like to actually hang out at. So we wanted to have that lighting, but I still had to bring in other lighting. So to handle the lighting, what I did was I brought in an aperture light, which is actually what I use right here. I personally have a preference for what are called lanterns. So this is, instead of an umbrella, it's a round dome. And so when you watch the video, what I feel like the lantern does is it creates this kind of gradiated fall off where it just feels a little bit more natural, and you don't have this as much of a hot spot because it's round. I brought that in, I set it up on the side. You can actually see it for just a second, but you see the feet, you see the metal feet of the pole. And I actually knew, when I recorded it, I knew it was visible. I didn't want to move it out of the way, which would change the light. And I thought to myself, you know what? There is so much stuff. I mean, you just look in the video and there's so much stuff that I felt like one more metal pole could legitimately be there. It could just not be a light, or it could even be a light, and it's a bar. So nobody's gonna like judge or know for sure that that pole does or does not exist unless you listen to the podcast and you know that that pole does not exist normally there.
Or if you go to our bar and you know that pole does not exist.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, things get moved around for parties and stuff.
That's true.
Now, it was not like here. I think this is a great shot.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And this again, this is just comes from that light.
I love how, like, where the beer pour, that green thing, that's kryptonite. Did you know that?
Yeah, it's kryptonite. I know.
It's so cool.
So that was actually made by Haldier, the guy I used to work with doing props.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So now, unfortunately, this was way too shadowy. So I had to add a second light. And for this, I just used a Godox light bar. I didn't want to bring a bunch of big, giant lights. I could have. I have all the things. I could have brought 4 big lights, I guess, if I really wanted to be crazy about it. But I just, I somewhat value the measure of our success by how much we had to bring. And if we had to bring too much stuff, I feel like we did something wrong. Just personally.
But I mean, if you would have had too much light, then it wouldn't have had the bar feel. It would have been way too bright to really be like, oh, is this really a bar?
Yeah. So here is our friend Steve. And Steve, he's lying on the ground like he was beat up by Wolverine. And you can definitely, I mean, it is dark. Like where the light is not, he is almost pitch black. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, that's a stylistic choice that I made. But I really, I wanted you to still be able to see him. Mm-hmm. Mostly because, let's see, I don't have any images of Snappy editing him, but you can kind of see here that she did things like split his lip and gave him a little bit of a black eye and just did all this stuff. And I felt bad that after she did all this work that you basically couldn't see it.
It was a little hard to see. You can see it if the monitor is bright enough on the computer screen.
To a certain extent, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did that on purpose though, guys. It's not a mistake. This is what I thought. I feel like if I were to do it again, I would do it exactly the same. I would not change anything about it. Now, maybe the makeup artist, Snappy, maybe she would change something a little bit, like not give him a split lip because you can't see it, whatever. I don't know. But I didn't want to discourage that because I'm, there's like method acting, but I feel like I'm kind of a method director. I wanted it set up more or less realistic. And I did give some guidance. I said like, hey, they're going to be laying on their right side, which means their left is going to be more visible. So she put more work into her left side whenever she did any of the makeup. On Wolverine, she had to do the full face because we just didn't know what would be visible.
Right.
She still had to do some makeup on all of the face because otherwise
it wouldn't have matched.
I don't know, matching is that the right word? I think the right word may be more like you might be able to see a transition in the video where it's like, well, I know the right side of his face is dark, but you can still kind of see it. And if you can kind of see it and his right side of his face doesn't look beat up, then it's not going to look good. So I'm willing to sacrifice 20 minutes of Snappy's time having her make up something just for 10% more visibility of it looking like he was beat up. I'm okay with that because that gave us the freedom to take the video from different angles, and it gave us the freedom of having him turn his head or whatever. And he does get up at the end.
He does.
So if half of his face was made up and the other half wasn't, it would have looked weird.
It would have.
So I don't regret that you can't see that much of them being beat up in this shot. It was good practice, and it makes it look complete and natural for the rest of the video, even though you don't get to see much. So after lighting, sound was going to be a problem, and I really thought it was. So we mic'd up Wolverine with
Yep.
lav.
I hooked him up with a lav.
You put your hand down his pants.
Not all the way.
Oh, not all
but
the
I
way.
clipped
Just the tip.
it to. No, that's awful. Don't say that. Oh, man. Usually I say these things. I don't like this. Take it back. So I got in his shirt and I laved him up and I clipped it to his belt. And then I stuffed the wires in his pants, I guess.
Now, we use a Rode Wireless Go 2 for
Is
our
it
labs
Rode
right now.
or Rhodey?
I don't know. I actually don't know.
That's like the $1 million
That's the
question.
topic of our next video. We're going to talk about 30 minutes all about Rode or Rhodey. Okay, so we use Wireless Go 2s, and they're wireless. I can technically sync that into the camera, and I don't. And a lot of people will be like, wait, it's a wireless lav and you're not having it go into your camera? Nope, it's not. I'm using a Sony shotgun mic. It doesn't use a cable. It's all digital. It works through the auxiliary port on the camera. And I use that so that I'm capturing natural audio from the perspective of the camera. And again, that's on purpose. The lav, I was not planning on sending that anywhere at all. I was just going to have him mic'd up. And the cool thing about the Rode Wireless Go 2 mics is if you connect them to your computer and use the configuration software, you can configure them to record internally. And so I just take the lav, I plug it into the USB on the computer, and I download the WAV file at the end of the night. Super cool. That's what I normally do almost any time I use those lavs. I don't even bother outputting them to somewhere. And that was a little bit of a mistake because I couldn't check it. So then I had to turn on the receiver so I could monitor levels just enough so I could make sure that, it was dialed in for his voice. And then it also made it more difficult editing wise because the wireless labs, when it starts recording when you turn it on and it stops when you turn it off. So that meant that we had like a 4-hour audio file.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And normally we just are really good about stopping and starting it because it's not too bad of a problem, but because it was inside of his pants, then it wasn't like accessible. And I didn't want you to have to keep like reaching in there all night long. Turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on.
Oh, man. There's other buttons that he has that turns him on as well.
There you go. So it is a good backup, but it should not be used as primary audio. And it's not meant to be used as a primary audio. It's just that we often use it that way. And instead, what we should have done is we should have recorded to the Mix Pre 6 that we use. That way we could have monitored it. We could have had somebody hitting stop and start every time that we were actually doing it. That's the proper way to do it. And I definitely would do that next time for sure. Now, what I was really surprised by is if you were to watch the video and you were to hear him talking, so it's mostly him fighting or really being beat up. And then it like cuts in and kind of shows him as he's like getting wasted in the bar.
Can he get wasted?
I don't know, a little bit, but it doesn't last very long.
Yeah, the healing factor.
Yeah. So when he's talking, we're in a bar. Have you guys been in a bar at home Like, do you know how loud it is in a bar? Have you been in an empty bar? And an empty bar is super ridiculously loud. You've got all of those refrigerators.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and we actually had that problem when we shot at the other bar, where because that bar is even bigger, and you're shooting right next to the like fridges and stuff, and
Oh, yeah.
it's so loud. It's ridiculous. I really thought it was going to be unacceptable. It wasn't. I managed to clean it up. I used a spectrometer, not spectrometer, spectroglass. I can't remember what the name of the filter is, but anyway, I highlighted the refrigerator noise, and it worked perfect. Like, so when you hear him talking, that's not the laughs, actually. That is my shotgun mic, and it just sounds great. I think it sounds great, anyways. I mean, maybe it doesn't. That covers light and that covers sound. Now, the video is 2.5 minutes long. How long did it take to record?
3-4 hours.
Yeah. So that is something for sure you have to be mentally prepared for. So to record just the little bit of fighting in 2.5 minutes total, 3 hours of footage or 3 hours of recording. And it actually, if you count the prep time before that, because we actually started preparing long before we started recording. So it actually was very close to 4 hours. So you just have to be mentally prepared to accept how long it takes to do action. Especially, I mean, you need to be careful. People can get really hurt. So you want to be careful, do it slow, practice. And then the other thing you want to do is you want to show everybody the footage. And I think it's so easy as a person behind the camera to say, you know what, I'm going to look at it and I'm going to decide if it's good enough or not. But leverage the creative people on the team and let them see it. That, especially the stunt performers, because a lot of times the stunt performers know what they're trying to get accomplished, and when they see it, sometimes they might be like, "Oh, let me do that again," and you're like, "But it's fine." Like, no, let me do it again.
There's certain angles that we're not as aware of that they could be.
Yeah, and I mean, and if you're a stunt performer and you know how it should look, and you're the director and you're the cinematographer, I guess great. You know what you're seeing or don't see. But I know for me, I'm a writer and I'm a photographer, and I'm not going to claim to be an expert on martial arts or anything like that. So I just don't see if something looks wrong or not.
That's fair.
So that's where, let people see it, and I think it's going to be better in your outcome. And the other thing is if you're going from being a photographer to a videographer, you need to be willing to watch the clips. And that's something that's hard because you do that as a photographer, but it's a still image. So to look at a still image, you normally look at it for like 2 or 3 seconds. And you're like, yep, I got the framing right. I got the lighting right. It looks good. In video, you need to watch that whole thing. Don't assume. Don't watch 10 seconds and say, yep, that's good. And then stop and let's keep going. And you're going to be pressed for time. You're definitely going to be pressed for time, but that doesn't mean that if you don't have time to review the footage there, you're probably already out of time. You don't have enough time to do it right.
And then if you don't review it and everybody's gone home and the location is finished, you're out of luck.
Yeah. Now, for us, we tip the bartender. And every time that we use a bar or location, we make sure to pass some cash to people to make them feel appreciated, because they are going to their workplace, but they're not getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
And so to film again And there's definitely, I mean, you always have regrets, right? You always think, oh, we could have done this better. We could have done that better. We would have felt obligated to tip the guy again a second time to go back. And plus the makeup, it would have
Oh
cost
yeah.
money. It would have cost real money to go back a second time, even though they were nice enough to let us shoot there. It would not have been free.
Oh no.
So you definitely you you want to review it while you're there. And my biggest tip to people when I tell them to review it, assume that the final product will look like what you see, because that's the number one thing I see over and over and over again, especially with people new to working with cameras, is they assume, oh, it's too dark. Well, I'll fix it at home. No, you won't. You really won't. It like
That's a lot to fix.
well, I mean, here's the thing. If you are fixing it being too dark at home, then you're not going to have enough room to edit. Like in this case, the face was bright enough and his hands were bright enough, but his pant leg, it's already a little bit dark here, but it was really dark. So when I recorded it at the bar, I made sure that it was usable as is. And it was. And because I made sure it was usable as is, when I went home and I said, you know what? I want to see his boots. I don't want to make his hand any brighter. I don't want to make his face any brighter, but I want to be able to see his boots a little bit. I want to be able to see just a little bit more of the bar stool. I don't want that to be so gloomy. So that's what I'm saying. Like if it looks good enough, not great, not perfect. That's why you're an editor. If you didn't need to edit it, then I guess amazing. But you normally you have to edit video, especially video. But if it looks good enough that if you were to upload it to the internet, it would do okay. That's what you want, because then you can go in and you can adjust some of it to be brighter or some of it to be darker, and you'll have that wiggle room, because you can always go up a little bit, but you can't go up a lot. So if you already had to make the bright spots a lot brighter, then you can't make the shadowy spots any brighter without adding a bunch of noise. They'll look like garbage. So you definitely want it all to be close to good enough. And that's going to give you this huge amount of room at home to actually make it great. Now, at this point, I think we're going to, I think we'll end with just a couple more tips, and then we will cut off this week. We hope that you really enjoy this video. On the YouTube video, I will, actually on both, I'll have a link to the final video so you guys can all see this. And then on the bonus cast, we'll talk a little bit more about behind the scenes stuff, and hopefully I'm still alive and she hasn't killed me with this X23 claw. So just
Stab,
a
stab.
few more tips. If you want to do photography while you're in a bar, you're going to want to use flash. So I had my camera set up so that when I was doing flash, it was set up only for flash. Basically, because I was using a shotgun mic, I had a choice. And my shotgun mic uses my auxiliary port because it's digital. It's a Sony digital mic. I had a choice. I could either use the flash or I could use the mic. I recommend a flash. If you're in a bar, I mean, almost anytime you're doing photography, I recommend using a flash. You don't want the flash to be lighting up the whole bar. You want to make the person look, again, good enough, and then you add the flash. And that's what makes them look amazing. That's just my opinion. That's how I use flash. Is I use flash to make it bright enough where I really want the focus, but I don't want the flash to be kind of like everywhere else, because I just feel like it just causes problems. So I did all the photography before I switched to video. Once I switched to video, I kind of told everybody, hey, I'm doing video. I'm not taking photos. And so people are like, well, you didn't get that many photos. No, I didn't. I was recording video. I don't recommend switching back and forth between photos and videos. What can happen is you can end up with not changing the settings right. And at least for Sony cameras have different modes. Like the video mode is not just the photography mode, but you're recording video. It's a different like setting. The output setting is different. Just everything is kind of like different. So I highly recommend do your photography and then do your video, or have two cameras. I have before carried two cameras, and that's viable. It's kind of a hassle. Bring a second shooter or something if you really need it. I started out doing a lot of BTS on movies. I think it's super cool to invite people to record BTS for you when it's something they want to do, but they haven't done it before. I think it's super nice on your part, and I do appreciate that. Marcus McFadden let me record BTS a lot, so thank you, Marcus. You record lots of what they call room noise so that you can erase those refrigerators that a bar has later on. It's very important. I would, if I hadn't had clean room noise, room noise being nobody talking, just the room. If I didn't have that, I would not have been able to clean up the audio, but because I did, it was great. Tip people. If you do not take care of the people that are helping you out,
They're not going to want to help you in the future.
yeah, and then you won't have a place to shoot. So we've shot here a couple times. I really appreciate it every time I take care of them. So thank you guys. And I think that's it. We'll close it up here. Mm-hmm. And you've been working on an outro, so you want to take over this time?
What is my outro?
Oh, I thought maybe if I just threw it out there that
you can keep trying.
All right,
It's supposed
guys.
to be a team effort, sir.
It was a team effort.
No, you throw me under the bus.
No, that wasn't throwing you under the bus. I was like trying to like Rain Man you into like.
Nope, keep trying.
All right, guys. If you're Patreon members, follow us back over onto the bonus cast, and otherwise, we'll talk to you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Thanks for stopping by.